All right, so we're diving into this Eagles analysis, and man, you brought a fascinating article. It's about their struggles, right? Seems like Jalen Hurts is at the heart of it, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Eagles fans are going nuts over this.
Yeah, and it's understandable. It's not just about Hurts, though, is it? What's interesting here is how this article really digs into everything around him, right? The offensive line, what about the receivers, even those coaching decisions?
Totally. It's like this chain reaction or maybe even a house of cards, one weak link, and the whole thing just crumbles. I mean, look at that game with all the injuries. The article mentions it. Hurts looked lost, a completely different player than when he's got his usual guys.
Yeah, that's the thing about the NFL, right? Everything's connected. Even if you've got the talent at quarterback, sometimes you just can't overcome those hurdles.
For sure. And the article keeps saying Hurts struggles in imperfect situations. So what does that actually mean in real terms?
I think it's about those moments, those high-pressure moments,
Right.
where a quarterback's really tested, their ability to adapt. Think about a collapsing pocket, the defenders are all over him, and receivers can't get open. That's where your decision-making, your accuracy, it all becomes so crucial.
So it's not just about having a cannon for an arm,
Yeah.
right? You got to stay cool under fire, which is funny because we've seen Hurts make some incredible plays with his legs. But then the article goes and suggests that his athleticism could be a problem too.
It is interesting, isn't it? It's this paradox. Like, Hurts' athleticism is exciting, we love to watch it, but it can lead to him relying more on instinct, instead of that disciplined decision-making, especially when things get messy.
So are you saying that sometimes he'll just take off running when he should really be looking for that pass?
Exactly. It's finding the balance, right?
Right.
When do you make that amazing improvised play and when do you make the smart strategic throw? The article brought up the Eagles' struggles in the red zone. Seemed like a good example of this.
Oh, absolutely. Everything's tighter down there. The defense is locked in, and those split-second decisions, they become even more critical, don't they?
Precisely. That margin for error, it gets so small. And the article even hinted that the play calling itself might not be doing Hurts any favors.
Okay, so is this where the coaching comes in?
Right. Are they being predictable?
Uh-huh.
Are they putting Hurts in the best possible position to succeed? Reading this article, it feels like maybe the play calling hasn't quite adapted to make the most of what Hurts can do.
Interesting. So we've got potential issues with play calling. We talked about Hurts' strengths and weaknesses. But what are the actual solutions here?
Well, the article mentioned a few, and strengthening that offensive line is a good place to start, obviously.
Right, that makes sense. The more time Hurts has to see the field, the better his chances of making the right read, right?
Yeah, exactly. You can't expect him to consistently make plays when he's got defenders in his face all the time.
Yeah.
And it's not just throwing guys in there, right? Like the article mentioned, looking for a specific type of player.
Yeah, guys who are more mobile, better at protecting the pass.
Right, exactly. Hurts is at his best when he can extend the play, so finding those linemen who can move with him, that's key.
Okay, so that's the offensive line. But the article also talked about the play calling, like maybe changing things up.
Yeah, predictability can kill you. You know that. If the defense knows what's coming, it's over.
You got to mix it up, keep them guessing, right? Use those pre-snap motions, throw in some play action, really keep them on their toes.
Exactly. And the article even suggested, using Hurts' legs more strategically.
Yeah, like designed runs, maybe some option plays, stuff we haven't seen as much lately.
It's all about keeping the defense honest, not letting them focus on just one thing.
Totally. That makes a lot of sense when you put it like that.
Hmm.
But there's this thing that keeps bugging me. We're talking a lot about what the Eagles need to do for Hurts, but shouldn't he be doing something too?
You're hitting on that individual growth, right? It's easy to get lost in the X's and O's,
Right.
but in the end, a quarterback's development, that's on him.
So what does Jalen Hurts need to do? Like, what are the next level skills he needs?
Well, the article pointed out a few things. First, that decision-making under pressure, that's big.
We talked about his athleticism, but he can't just rely on instinct all the time, right?
No, not always. It's about recognizing those defenses faster, anticipating the pressure, and making quick decisions even when things are falling apart around him.
So less backyard football and more like calculated chess moves.
Exactly. He needs to develop that internal clock, knowing when to stand his ground and when to escape.
You see those quarterbacks, and it's like they're moving in slow motion, just picking apart the defense.
Yeah,
Is that what we're talking about?
that's it. Those guys, they're not reacting, they're anticipating. They see the play before it happens. They're throwing guys open, trusting their reads, and delivering the ball perfectly.
And that kind of anticipation doesn't just happen overnight, does it?
No, it takes time, it takes experience, and a deep understanding of the game. It's about building that relationship with your receivers, knowing their routes, trusting them to be in the right spot.
So it's physical skills and mental mastery, the whole package.
Absolutely. And this article, it really feels like we're seeing Jalen Hurts at a crossroads.
Yeah.
He's shown us he can be brilliant, but then there's those moments where,
It falls apart a little bit.
exactly. And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Can he take that next step? Can he take all that talent and become the quarterback the Eagles need him to be?
So we've talked about the team, we've talked about Hurts, but the real question is what happens now?
That's the million-dollar question, right? Anyone who says they know for sure, well, they're probably trying to sell you something. But we can look at the article, look at the league, and kind of explore the possibilities.
Okay, so no crystal ball, but some educated guesses. I like it. Where do we even start?
Well, the rest of the season is huge, right? The article called it a turning point, and they're right. If the Eagles can turn things around, maybe make the playoffs, even with Hurts being inconsistent, that buys them some time, you know what I mean?
Winning cures all, or at least hides the problems for a bit. It's a lot easier to stick with a quarterback when he's winning games, even if it's not always pretty.
Exactly, but the opposite is also true. If the Eagles keep struggling, especially in those big moments, those situations we talked about where the article says Hurts struggles, well, those tough conversations are going to happen.
And those conversations, they could go a few different ways. What are we talking about here?
One option, the article mentions it, is really committing to Hurts development, like really going all in, even if it means, some more growing pains along the way, maybe even some losses while he figures things out. That takes serious patience, though, from everyone, the organization, the coaches, even the fans.
And patience is in short supply, especially in Philly, right? But what if they decide to stick with Hurts, but realize, hey, we need to build the offense differently around him?
That's the adapt or die strategy, right? Maybe they go all in on protecting him. They know that offensive line is make or break for a quarterback like Hurts. Or maybe they bring in a new offensive coordinator, someone who can build a system that plays to his strengths, minimizes those weaknesses we talked about.
So less about changing Hurts and more about changing everything around him.
Right. Sometimes quarterback development, it's not always a straight line. Sometimes you need a whole team effort to get the best out of a guy, especially in a league as tough as the NFL.
It makes sense. But then there's the option that nobody wants to think about, the one that probably gives Eagles fans nightmares. What if they just move on from Hurts completely?
It's the elephant in the room, right? And it's not what anyone wants, but it's a real possibility, and even the article kind of acknowledges that. The NFL is a business at the end of the day. Sometimes you got to make the tough calls, even if it means hitting the reset button.
And that reset button usually means a new quarterback. Through the draft, maybe a trade, and that's a whole other conversation.
It is, but you're right. It's all connected. This article, it really gave us a framework to think about these decisions, not just for the Eagles, but for any team trying to build a winner.
So for Eagles fans out there listening to us right now, what's the one thing they should take away from all of this?
I think it's simple. Just enjoy the ride. It's going to be a wild one. But as fans, you get to be a part of it. Keep those debates going. Keep watching those games because no matter what happens with Jalen Hurts, it's going to be fascinating.